The date is September 29, 2016. I have another lesson in my New Testament is Fake series on the Yalak Emet channel, Twitter, YouTube, Patreon. And thank you for your listenership so far. And I'm going to talk today about copycat number 6, which is another lesson in the copycat lessons that I've been doing as part of the New Testament is Fake series. The copycat lesson was actually one very, very long lesson. So I've split it up into many lessons. But they're basically just showing how the New Testament doesn't seem to try to be so original, but it's more copying or porting over things from the Old Testament into the New Testament. And okay, so let's say somebody's making a Bible. I can see certain things coming over, but it just seems like it's not unique enough. It's too much stuff coming over that's significant, but in some cases as well, it makes it seem like it is original to the New Testament, and in some cases it's the teachers who have made it seem like it is original, where they don't really direct you so much to the Old Testament understanding, or even to let you know that it's there, although sometimes they do with some scriptures. But I want to get into it here now. Copycat number 6, and the lesson is titled Fighting Worms. So it's 2 parts to this. First part's going to deal with Paul saying he fought a good fight, and then I'm going to talk about the worms of hell, where they say the worms die not. So let's get into it. First, I'm going to read from 2 Timothy chapter 4 and verse 7, and then find the root, where I think it's the root verse that the deception was taken from in the Old Testament. So 2 Timothy chapter 4 and verse 7. It reads here, I have fought a good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. Henceforth, in verse 8, there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, shall give me at that day, and not to me only, but unto all them also that love his appearing. So the verse seems pretty simple and honest, and we had good thoughts about it when I was a boy and first heard it in the Christian church. But looking at it now, Paul seems so self-centered, and this is something coming from the Old Testament. But he seems so self-centered. I have fought a good fight. I've finished my course. Okay, well, maybe that's not a problem in itself. At least he can testify that. And he feels good to be able to say something like that, like he ran the race well and so on. But it just seems so self-centered. I have kept the faith, and then he goes on with the next verse, there's laid up for me a crown of righteousness. You know, like again, so self-centered, like this me thing. Maybe that's pushing it a little bit far, so I can understand that if you don't like that part. But for where I think something like this would have come from in the Old Testament, let's look at what the original writer in the Bible said about the end of life that I think this might have inspired, and see how he is not so self-centered with it. He's more focusing on the people. So when you try to balance them out, which one do you think is more noble, more becoming of a righteous person, more virtuous? It's certainly going to be the other one. Is from Samuel. So let's look now at 1 Samuel chapter 12 and verse 3. So it's kind of like approaching an end of life kind of talk or thinking that Samuel is doing, just like Paul is like in that kind of mode as well. So here he is, 1 Samuel 12:3. Behold, here I am. So, like how Paul starts out his I fought a good fight, it's something more internal and reflective, and certainly that's not a poem in and of itself, but it's closed off, it's just about him and so on. He could have been saying that just reflecting on his own self, right? But Samuel is like doing this stuff out in the open, where of course the people would have gotten it because Paul would have written the letters and sent them out. But it's like Samuel here is more direct with the people. He can expose himself. Behold. So this is a revelation. We're always seeking for God and we want God to give us a revelation. But sometimes God is looking for a revelation in us as well. A revelation that we give off. Even the Bible says the spirit of man is the candle of the Lord, and he talks about walking through the streets of Israel or of Jerusalem with a candle. He's searching, he's looking for people, for the righteous ones, and so on. And so man needs to reveal himself to God sometimes. So here Samuel, more in line with the spirit of Torah, he reveals himself to the people, revealing himself to Israel, because he has already done his work to reveal himself to God. So he has no difficulty exposing himself or giving a revelation of him to the people. So he says, behold, look, because I got nothing to hide. My hands are clean. Here I am. Witness against me before the Lord. Now, this already, I haven't read the rest of the verse yet. It's a longer verse than the verse where Paul said, I fought a good fight. But just the first part of the verse, he's already so direct with it. He can move right into judgment quicker than Paul in his statement. And he's like, he's even saying you can witness against me. He's not even trying to get people on the side. It's like he can flip this to the negative right away before he gets on to the rest of the long verse. He says against, because he knows he can stand, because he's clean. That's why he says, look, behold, this is a revelation of me. And so you can see Samuel really tried to keep his way throughout his ministry, his life, his prophetic calling, because so the Lord revealed himself unto Samuel when he was younger, because the Bible said that, in I think 1 Samuel chapter 3, that the Lord revealed himself to Samuel because he did not yet know the Lord at that point, even though he was already serving in the temple, in the house of the Lord with Eli. And that's the problem that we find here. All this self-centered stuff so much, maybe I'm picking on Paul a little bit, so don't take this part too far with Paul. But you see so many people today where, like Paul, is self-centered, saying, I have fought a good fight, and so on. You see so many people today, their ministry is just about them. And Paul clears it up in a little bit. Of course, it seemed he cared for the people and so on, so he kind of turned it around in the following verse after that, in verse 8. But so many people, they're just like them. You see that even with politicians, even all this stuff now, and people are so concerned with what's going on in Africa now that some of the leaders there are selling out the people and so on for money and whatever, and they're part of the whole matrix thing and whatever. A lot of that is really just fear, because you fear for your life, you want your own sustenance and so on, so you want the money, so you're going to take it. Plus you want to look good for the people, so you're going to take it to help the public. But you're not realizing that that's just like killing our future more. Because if Africa don't rise, the rest of us who are blacks all over, you're pretty much done for. So, people are just so self-centered. in government too often, although there are some righteous ones, and self-centered in their ministry. In this case, we're talking about Bible stuff now, like in the Israelite camp ministry or in the church. Some of these leaders are so self-centered, and it's just me, 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 and they're going to run this thing the way that they will get the accolades and the benefits of it and so on, and everybody else is just, just down there. And you see, like, some minister, they're well taken care of and people are struggling. They want you to give more to pay their hydro or whatever for the church or whatever, but the person giving in the offering can't pay their hydro at home. And so it's just a little bit kind of funny. Something is not right there. Because with all that money, should there be at least 1 month where the ministry, whether it's a church or Israelite camp, give back some of that money 1 month to the people in the congregation, or even just 1 week out of the entire year, 52 weeks, 1 week. Let's say we're giving back this money, and maybe people who are doing well with very good jobs and so on might not need it, so they might choose to pass up. But a lot of people in the congregation who can't pay their bill, can't pay their phone bill, can't pay their hydro, because they got to force themselves to keep up with their rent and so on. Like, that would just so help. But we see that it's always given to the Lord, and you never see God's pocket. It's always the pocket of the leaders that you can see, and it gets fat. And they're buying the most expensive books online and so on, and so they get to study and teach some very powerful lessons. But for all those books, sometimes you want a little book to buy and you can't, and you wait like 3 years to buy the book. It's not that you don't know the Lord so much because you don't love the Lord so much. You can't study to know the Lord, to show yourself approved. You can't study that much because you can't buy that much books, because you don't have that much money. And yet you still feel that it's all right to give. But instead of this taking and self-centered stuff, like Paul is saying, I fought a good fight, and he's reflecting, keeping it on himself, Samuel opens up with the stuff towards the people, saying, behold, see me, look at me, and a witness against me before the Lord and before his anointed. Whose ox have I taken, or whose ass have I taken? So now, instead of this, I have fought a good fight, I've kept the faith and so on. So Paul now fought a good fight and I've kept the faith and so on. He's breaking stuff down. But look at how much more powerful it is when Samuel breaks it down, when he starts to give some details so that people can really judge in the matter and see if he's telling the truth. He exposes himself even more with more details. Whose ox have I taken? So again, he reveals himself to the people. Is that more powerful than the New Testament expression, I have fought a good fight, I have kept the faith and so on? Or whose ass have I taken, or whom have I defrauded? So he's giving it out to the people, like, come on, speak up, like, see me. So he's giving an example of what ministry should be like, of what a leader should be like in their life before the people over the course of many years. Or whom have I oppressed, or of whose hand have I received any bribe? I never sold out. I never took the stuff just to pull off this and that for you behind the scenes and trick the people and so on. Received any bribe to blind my eyes therewith, and I will restore it to you. And the Bible does say that gifts will blind the eyes. And so leaders need to be concerned about that. But here, he really just exposes himself. And then, of course, they could just verify that in verse 4 and say, thou hast not defrauded us, nor oppressed us, neither have you taken aught from any man's hand, and so on. So it really does show a difference right there. It's definitely more powerful than what Paul is expressing. So again, I'm showing you a more powerful book than the New Testament, even though I've started to show already in other lessons that the Old Testament, the Torah, has some serious problems too. But at least if you're going to choose something, go for the more powerful one, and then we can work from there. Now, let's look at the worms now in the New Testament, where we were taught that the worms of Revelation or of the New Testament about lake of fire and they're going to be burning, and the worms die not, and the flames don't stop, and so on. Let's see how that really stands up, and again show that as it has been brought to us heavily in the New Testament, that this is some New Testament idea, that this whole idea of the flames or hell and so on was from the Old Testament. Okay, here in Mark 9:44, it says, okay, let's read 43 and 44. Jesus is talking here, and if thy hand offend thee, cut it off. It is better for thee to enter into life maimed than having two hands to go into hell. And so as children, we thought that hell was this real place and so on, somewhere in outer space or under the earth. Some people try to make us think, but it seems to be like if the world is going to be burnt up and so on, like Peter said and whatever, it seems that hell is off the earth, just like heaven is off the earth if you're going to fly up and go to heaven. And so we kind of thought that because of the way that the teachers were lazy, too lazy and too deceived to see the truth. But things would be revealed more and more. So then having two hands to go into hell, into the fire that shall never be quenched. Now this is downright shameful of Jesus, because Jesus knows there is no such hell like that. But he's saying it in a way that lets the teachers go on to teach it in a way that makes you feel like hell is this real place and you're afraid to go to hell. But it doesn't appear to be like that. Now, let's run over to where this stuff here would have come from. Wait, verse 44, where their worm dieth not. So this is the hell he's talking about, where their worm dieth not, and the fire is not quenched. Let's look now from Isaiah 51 now, and show where something like this would have come from. As I continue with this copycat number 6 lesson in the New Testament is Fake series. Alright, so Isaiah 51 and verse 8, look at what it says now. For the moth shall eat them up like a garment, and the worm shall eat them like wool. But my righteousness shall be forever, and my salvation from generation to generation. So we're seeing here now that he's talking about the moth and the worm eating them like wool, and so they use all this stuff to kind of make us feel, yeah, see, that's now the hell and the worms die not, and so on, like New Testament wants us to think. But let's read some more here. Isaiah chapter 66 and verse 24, and this is the last verse in the book of Isaiah. And they shall go forth. This is after end time judgment now, after they come after the land of the Lord, which, as far as I'm concerned, the way I see it now, and I'm looking into it more, but it seems that this is Africa, not the regular Israel that we've always believed. The land of the Lord is Africa. It's the land of God. Is where the ancients, Cushites and so on, and whoever before them were there before they call themselves Cushites, because we know there are many different African kingdoms and so on, but certainly them and the Egyptians and so on, it was like the land of the Lord. So this is Africa, and the final push is going to come after them, and I'm going to talk about this more in the Africa of God series. It's the land of the Lord where they're going after. Okay, I was interrupted, so let's go back now to Isaiah 66 verse 24. And they shall go forth and look upon the carcasses of the men that have transgressed against me, for their worm shall not die, neither shall their fire be quenched, and they shall be an abhorring unto all flesh. So this would more be where they get this worm stuff from in the New Testament, but they never told us that, and still don't continue to teach that. Now you might find one person here or there on the earth somewhere that actually mentions this when they're teaching the New Testament, but usually it's completely ignored. So you don't grow with this knowledge. You more grow with New Testament knowledge if you're in the church, for example, and you have very little Old Testament knowledge, and once you study it more, you would understand that something is seriously wrong with the Old Testament as well, but you would still have more knowledge to figure out more things and understand a little bit more of the world, and then you would find out that the Old Testament has its base, its roots in things African as well. So something is really odd right there. But it says they're going to look upon the carcasses, and the worms shall not die. Now, if the worms aren't going to die and they are in hell, I always wondered as a child, how will the worms not die in hell, and these people are still going to be living, walking around in hell and running and screaming in hell and so on, weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth, like the New Testament says. But we know worms are usually living in the earth. So yeah, they might be in the body, but then they're going in and out of the dirt as well. So, and usually when you're finding worms, it's on dead stuff. So the real understanding then is that these people are not living in a lake of fire like the New Testament lets you think, in space somewhere, but it's more that the people that fought against the land of the Lord and the people of the Lord have been defeated, and they are dead. So it says carcasses, and they are in the ground. And other verses will tell you that they're going to round up the numbers and of the dead ones, and when they locate the body, then they're going to say, hey, here it is, and they're going to bury the bodies. So the bodies are going to be buried in the ground, and that's where the worms are going to be located and be going through the bodies. And so the worms don't die. Right there seems to me to be saying, it's just the not dying is showing that it's going to be a great volume of worms, because it's a lot of wicked people in the armies that were fighting against the Lord and his people. And so it's just speaking of the volume of worms to say they will not die, but also talking about that they're going to continue to thrive because they're in the earth, in their environment where they normally live. So they'll continue to have sustenance, right? So they're going to be consuming the body, deteriorating the body, and then they're going to go on living and thriving. It's just going to continue going on and on and on. The worms are just going to continue to live because they are home in the ground. Jeremiah 19 verse 2 and 5, that's showing that this isn't some hell where the worms are going to be at, but it's someplace actually on earth. So where the worms don't die, it is on this earth, not in space, in hell, in space, in a lake of fire. Because the idea is really just taken here from the Old Testament. Now let's look in this Interpreter's One Volume Commentary of the Bible. I'll read a little bit here on Isaiah 66 and verse 24 that I just read, where it says worms won't die. They say this is a final warning. The final verse here, Isaiah 66 verse 24, introduces a last note of warning concerning the downfall of those who have rebelled against God, apostates who come under his wrath. The picture of perpetual fire, again, just like the lake of fire or the flames of hell like they teach of in the New Testament. So the perpetual fire, the picture of perpetual fire is probably taken from the burning of refuse in the valley of Hinnom outside Jerusalem. And it gives a verse here which I'm going to read. So again, you're seeing the picture of this burning is really the picture of the picture of the worms is the picture of a burning that people witnessed on earth and knew on earth. So the idea of the flames and worms in it and so on is taken from something that people already had on earth, that people on earth already set up. They set up the burning in the valley of Hinnom. It's a place where they burnt refuse or garbage, unwanted stuff. So this hell idea and the lake of fire is taken then from an earthly occurrence, an earthly thing that people were normally doing all the time. It's not something in space. So from Jeremiah 19:1-5, I'm going to read that soon. I'll just finish reading this part. Though perhaps there is also an overtone of the final cosmic battle of the nations against God's people, in which God wins his last victory at the ushering in of the new age. Now let's read the verse from Jeremiah chapter 19, and I'm going to read verse 2 and 5. And go forth into the valley of the son of Hinnom, which is by the entry of the east gate, and proclaim there the words that I shall tell thee. So the valley of the son of Hinnom. And verse 5, they have built also, so first of all, that valley of the Hinnom is some place around Jerusalem, a rocky place, some place connected to Jerusalem. The east gate it mentioned, so there's actually a location and an entrance to it that was used. Well, this is not some place in outer space that there is a hell. It is some place on earth that people have been using to burn refuge with lots of flames that burn up the garbage and so on, just like you have garbage dumps today. And so the writer is saying this stuff about it, but the New Testament and the teachers of the New Testament for centuries have made us feel like there is this place in the spirit world where you're going to go to and be burned forever and ever in the flames of fire. But no, they have built, verse 5, also the high places of Baal to burn their sons with fire for burnt offering. So when they're burning their sons with fire, that's like you being burnt in the lake of fire forever and ever, or burnt in hell, the flames of hell, for burnt offerings unto Baal, which I commanded not, nor spake it, neither came it into my mind. And now when when you look at now, the worms will not die. It's like it's giving the same treatment like how they were burning their sons in the fire. They're burning their children, and they would never stop. They only stopped because God brought judgment on them. They would not stop otherwise. So it would just be forever and ever. So the Most High in Isaiah 66 verse 24 is giving the same thought here. The same way you would not stop is the same way these worms are not going to stop when my judgment is come. And these wicked people are going to be cut off forever. And that's the hell part of it. Cut off forever, it just means that they will not resume their power, their government of evil on earth to fight against the Lord and his people. And so that's where the forever and ever comes from. They will be destroyed forever. They won't be able to set up their government anymore and so on. Just like in Psalm 83 verse 3, they set up crafty counsel. That crafty counsel will not come to life again, because they will be destroyed forever. And that's pretty much where this whole hell and so on, the carcasses are going to be there, and then it's just forever. They will not come back. So this hell place is just a place on earth where the worms die not, because the people that fight in the final battle, when they're defeated by the people of the Lord with the Most High's help, they're going to die, and the bodies are just going to be destroyed forever and ever on earth, and their government will never rise again. And you're going to come and look at them and see the carcasses of these men who have fought against the Lord. And that again shows that it's not someplace in the lake of fire or in hell, someplace in outer space. Because why would the righteous be going to go someplace in space? Like what? Build spaceship and go to space to find hell, to look at these people in the lake of fire? Even the New Testament has Jesus saying with the story with Lazarus and the dead man, is it Dives and Lazarus, whatever it was, I can't remember. And he's saying I can't come over to give you the water because there's a great gulf fixed between you and I. So it's telling you that you can't travel intergalactically like that to go and find a place where the wicked are being punished. So the righteous left on earth is not going to be able to go to no space and see this. But how can they still go and see it? Like Isaiah 66 verse 24 said that they will go and look at the carcasses of the men who have fought against the Lord, who have been destroyed, who are having their worms not die because the worms are there eating them up. They're dead bodies, their carcasses. They're able to go and look because it is a place on earth. So hell is not lake of fire is not off the earth. It is on earth where the wicked will be destroyed and be put there for the final resting place. And so you will be able to go and behold it with your eyes and see the destruction that has happened to the wicked. Hell is on earth, and that's where it's at. There where they will be destroyed. In the land of the Lord, the final push, they're going to be destroyed right there as they come to take over the land of the Lord for the last time. And the worms die not means there will be no resurrection for them, because if the worms die not, it's showing you that there is no resurrection but a perpetual death state. Death will be perpetuated for them, so they're not going to rise again in their numbers, rise again in their power, rise again in their government and so on, in their evil plans and so on. So the worms die not means resurrection will not be given to them and their power and their evil kingdom that they've ran for so long. They will remain dead and their power will remain dead. That's what it's saying. So no, hell from the New Testament and lake of fire is what we have been taught all along. It is someplace off in space. This is Copycat number 6. New Testament is fake. Twitter, YouTube, Patreon. Thanks again for listening.